Welcome to Epic Exchange, the podcast where we have real conversations about senior life, senior living, dementia care, and the amazing people who make it all happen. My name is Erica Lab. I am Director of Team Member Engagement and Culture at Epic Senior Living, the premier senior living provider in the Northeast.
And I'm Sarah Turcott, Area Community Liaison for several of our Bridges by Epic and Waterstone communities. Together, we'll be your hosts, bringing you stories, insights, and expert voices from across our organization and beyond. Whether you're a caregiver, a family member, a professional, somebody navigating the early stages of dementia, or somebody considering assisted living, this podcast probably has something for you. We're here to share what we've learned, spotlight the work happening every day in senior care, and offer ideas and inspiration to support well-being at every stage of aging.
And each episode will be joined by guests who are making a difference, from community leaders to care team members and clinical experts. And for today's podcast, we'll be discussing recognizing and reducing caregiver stress. So we're so excited to welcome Amy Murray. She is Executive Director of Bridges by Epic in Andover. Amy has more than a decade of experience in the field of senior living management and operations. She's served in executive director roles at several senior living communities throughout New England, and we're so very lucky to have her at Epic Senior Living. She has a proven track record of delivering exceptional results and has a demonstrated and unwavering commitment to excellence in care, customer service, and operational success in senior living. Amy holds a degree in healthcare administration from Southern New Hampshire University and has a diverse background in both senior living and business development. And we are so thrilled to have you on the show today, Amy. Thank you.
Thank you both for having me. I'm glad to be here.
A pleasure. So let's get right into it. So today we're going to be talking about recognizing caregiver stress, burnout. So we want to talk about those early stages of becoming a caregiver. So can you share some ways caregivers are impacted when they begin caregiving for a loved one, and how does their life change?
Sure. I would say most of them feel just thrust into a situation that they've never navigated before, which can cause so much stress on them emotionally, physically, and having that new role that they haven't navigated before.
Yeah, the role that maybe they didn't know was coming, right?
So just, talking about the day-to-day changes, as you said, someone can be thrusted into this. Oftentimes people are thrown into these situations. Can you just share a little bit, when sometimes people don't even identify as a caregiver. So if you could just share a little bit as to the day-to-day things that come up for a caregiver and what they go through being a direct family member caregiver.
That's a great point, saying that they may not even realize they're a caregiver. Mm-hmm. Let's just use an example as I'm a daughter, and now I'm caring for my mom. I've always been the daughter, not the caregiver. Now suddenly my roles are changing without me realizing, and I'm losing that daughter piece and what's so important about that piece, and holding on more of the planner, how do I deal with doctor's appointments? How do I deal with the changes in personality and everything else that goes along with the disease?
Yeah, it's such a good point, because it's a double whammy, right? Like slowly you start taking on more, like you said, without even realizing it. But then it's like often, not always, but can be the loss of what the relationship had been in the other role. So it's like twofold at the same time.
And then just becoming, like you said, the day-to-day eyes and ears and heart of, navigating your loved one's care needs. And it can oftentimes just come with a whirlwind, right? You're now navigating someone's day-to-day and managing all of those things that come with it.
Yes, and still your own life. So trying to balance and figure out all the dynamics and figuring out when enough's enough, right? How to put yourself still first in a very tough situation with someone that has high-level needs.
And that's hard to identify sometimes, because there's a lot of emotional and physical tolls that caregivers are taking on, right?
Absolutely.
So can you just share what some of these roles or day-to-day things that caregivers are taking over that they're just thinking, hey, this is just part of the job. They don't even realize that they're taking on some of these things.
Sure. So you're looking at every activity of daily living that, again, let's pretend I'm the daughter. How is your loved one doing as far as bathing, dressing, doing the basic brushing your teeth? How are they eating? Are they doing their cooking? Are they telling you they're cooking, but really you see the food's rotting in the refrigerator? So looking at the host of what we do every day, from getting up in the morning to going to bed at night, that we take for granted. That's just easy to do. And what happens a lot with these caregivers too is they didn't realize how bad it was, right?
Yeah, we talk about that a lot. And I know, primarily you work with folks with dementia, right? So
Yes.
memory care needs, but this is really like
Any caregiver.
any caregiver, right, that could relate to this, whether you're caring for, generally we speak of seniors, but all sorts of folks that we're caring for. But we often see around the holidays, if you live far away and then you see your parents and you're like, oh my God, like when I asked you if you're taking your meds and you're like, yeah, of course, honey, and then you look and the pill box hasn't been filled in, 6 weeks or whatever. And you're like shocked, right? Like
Yeah.
that surprise. And then realizing that there's a situation and then sort of taking on that role of
All of these roles,
All
all
of
the
these
day to day,
roles.
and it's constantly always being on. Like you were saying, a lot of these caregivers are managing their own day to day, and now they're managing the day to day of someone else on top of everything they're already juggling. I mean, can you share a little bit about how that can be emotionally taxing for someone to always be on as a caregiver?
Emotionally taxing can then affect your own physical health, right? So one of the big things is guilt. So talking about going to visit at the holidays and suddenly you see mom said she was taking her meds, but she hasn't been. Mom said she was eating well. She really hasn't been. Then what sets in? Guilt.
Yeah.
Because why didn't I see this? Why didn't I know? I should have done better. I should have. So that guilt is key at what we see at the beginning when caregivers are reaching out for help is I'm so guilty.
Right.
I'm so stressed. And emotionally, again, it's that barrier of being able to just be that daughter, that son, that spouse, because now the burden of every little need is in front of them.
And then we've seen that, I think all of us, through Epic Senior Living and the experiences we've had, like really impact the physical wellness of the caregiver, whoever that is, often the spouse, like their quality of life changes and shifts, and we'll sort of talk about that and how to address it. But also like maybe their physical health and wellness and emotional wellness really slips, which then impacts the person you feel guilty about not
Yes.
caring for.
And that's why it's so important when we tell caregivers, you really need to still put yourself first.
Yes. So I want to talk about that. So before we get into that, let's talk about, for folks that are caregivers at home, all of us that are caregivers, what are we looking for signs of burnout? Because we want to catch it before it's like blows up or there's a catastrophic event. So what are some symptoms we can look for that a caregiver, whether they're in the home or wherever, is maybe approaching a place where it's too much?
So are they now starting to isolate themselves? Do they not want to go out and do the things that they'd normally do? Feeling bits of depression, anxiety, things that they didn't maybe deal with before that suddenly they're starting to feel on a daily basis.
Right.
We oftentimes will hear people, their sleep is being affected, like you were saying, socially retracting.
Yeah, weight loss from not eating enough.
Yep,
Yeah.
physical, emotional.
Yeah. How do we, as caregivers, if we're feeling burnt out, give ourselves a break? What are some ways that like, what does that mean? How might that look for somebody that's a caregiver? I know you see it a lot, and part of your role, to be fair, is like to offer people a way to get that break.
Yes.
But when you're educating folks that are not living in a community, a senior living community yet, or not at that place, how do you? Because we do a lot of education and support at home. How do you help people take a break? What does that mean to get a break from it?
So looking at your circle, right? It may start with your immediate family, and to be okay and know it's okay to ask for help. It could be as small as, I just need to do grocery shopping for an hour,
Totally.
to walk alone through the aisles, get my hair done. Go outside and sip a cup of tea. I mean, it could be anything, but making sure you're putting that as a priority, a focus.
And that's okay.
And it's okay. Don't feel
yourself
guilty
permission.
about that, because you cannot be a good caregiver unless you're doing well.
The old oxygen mask.
Yeah.
Put it on yourself first, and then on your loved ones. In the
Absolutely.
airplane, they say put it on yourself and everyone else, right? Because that it's not selfish to do that. Yeah.
I think about the caregivers that oftentimes don't give themselves the permission, because a lot of times, like you said, people are ridden with guilt that they find it hard to give themselves and grant themselves that permission. And what would you share to a caregiver that's having a really hard time allowing themselves this time?
So first, that this is normal.
The burnout.
The burnout.
Yeah.
And it's okay to say, I need help. Like in anything in life, right? When you're struggling, it is okay to ask for that time.
If you don't, I think you get resentful. Like you resent the person.
Your relationship changes even more.
Right. And then they become the source of, you're like angry because you have that resentment. I think like that's so important because your life has shifted. Like, yes, it's shifting. And so when you take that time, like when someone says, hey, is there anything I can do? We often say, oh, no, I got it, right? Like, I'm such a hero, I got it. But to say, like...
It doesn't make you a hero, no. You're going to collapse.
You're going to collapse. And to say, like, when that friend calls and says, is there anything I can do? Yeah.
Yes.
Can I give you a grocery list and $50, and can you just go get a few things at the store for me? Like, that's a great way. Or like, I have like 5 loads of laundry to fold. Can you come over and we'll talk and fold laundry? Like, it's okay to ask for those things.
Absolutely. And for the people listening that may be a friend to a caregiver, sometimes just knowing how hard it is for that person to say, yes, please, I could use a meal. I could use, that half hour of you just sitting here so I can get out of the house. Most people aren't going to ask. So if you're a friend of a caregiver, just come out and say, hey, I'm coming over tomorrow.
What do you want for dinner?
I'm bringing something, so please tell me what you want.
Yeah.
Right?
And we're going to fold laundry and do dishes. Totally. That's such a great point. Because we do that when someone has a baby, right? We're like, oh, make a whatever meal train. Yeah, the meal train. And like, we can do that. That was such a great point that you can, as the friend of someone.
Exactly.
And the community, and we're going to talk about the importance of community, but as a community member to this friend that's taking care of someone, like, we can do that for seniors too. Yeah. And for caregivers of somebody, not just someone who just had a baby or just had surgery. It's like, this person is going to be a caregiver for quite a while. Yeah. So what can we do to support them? Instead of asking, telling. I'm coming by on Thursday.
This is what I'm doing.
I love that.
And help give them the permission to give themselves that time.
Yeah, that it's okay and it's normal. And we're going to talk about that as a little as we get into like what the community can do, sort of that community impact.
And I just wonder too, whether you're a friend of a caregiver or a caregiver themselves, we're talking about how to recognize and deal with this type of stress, but what can caregivers do? What suggestions or ideas can we give to caregivers that are going to be strategies to really reduce the stress that they're experiencing? Can you lend any insight on that?
Just like in my community, what we do for residents, looking at all areas of wellness, right? You want to make sure as a caregiver, you're looking at, you mentioned it before, Sarah, your sleep. How are you eating? Make sure you're drinking a lot of water. Take care of your body. Get out and move, even if it's 15 minutes walking outside. Try to make sure you're looking at your physical, your nutrition, and also if it is just something emotionally that you're struggling with, what do you love to do? What's something, it doesn't have to be a major hobby, but do you just like to go sit outside and watch the birds for 15 minutes so that you can just decompress and make sure you're getting all areas of wellness taken care of.
Yeah, and I think like not being afraid of seeking out therapy or a support group because they're out there. Mm-hmm. I know you do a support. We hold support groups,
and that's where community comes in too, right? So if you're taking care of yourself physically, that other piece is it doesn't mean you have to do it on your own when it comes to education. So many just don't have the knowledge of how to do this, again, because they've been thrown into it. You can seek education. We offer that in our community. Support groups. Or if you're uncomfortable in groups talking about things or getting that support, sometimes it's having someone connect you with another individual that's going through a similar situation that you can have maybe one-to-one conversations if they're more comfortable.
Learning how they're dealing with their day-to-day stress and
tips.
Routines and tips that are helping them.
And then it makes you feel like you're not alone.
I'm not alone. And our friends at McLean say, like, find 2 other caregivers to interact with, like, right? So you have that sense of community. Sometimes you just need to vent, right? You can't vent to the person. If you're a spouse caring for your spouse, like you cannot vent to them. I'm sorry, those days are over. Like find somebody else to vent to. And sometimes it's helpful to talk to somebody who's going through it in a similar way. You feel less alone. You feel sort of validated in your feelings. And I think that's really powerful for folks. But you touch on something like knowledge is power. And most times, when someone becomes a caregiver, they don't know, they haven't prepared for this. Like we have, because it's our career, right? This is what we do. But for so many of us, all of a sudden there's a diagnosis or a change in behavioral symptoms or something, and we're like, oh my gosh, like now I am the primary caregiver. But I have not been trained on this. So now you need the books. Now you need EPOCH or other, the Alzheimer's Association or whoever you're reaching out to for help. Like now you need the knowledge and you have to catch up because you weren't preparing for this.
Right.
So in talking about caregivers, it can be really hard for a caregiver to set some realistic boundaries, especially when they feel like everything is depending on them, right? So what would you say to a caregiver who's feeling guilty or is having a hard time setting realistic boundaries, utilizing respite care, accepting help? What is the advice you're giving families to this?
So letting them know that it's okay to set the boundaries. It's not wrong. There's no reason to feel guilty about it. And also trying to figure out with them, what has their life been looking like day to day doing the caregiving, and focusing on the positives with them. So having that empathy, listening, okay, this is what I've been going through. This is the stress of the situation, and saying to them, good job.
Yeah.
You've been doing a great job. People don't need to be told, here's step 1, here's step 2, this is what you need to do. That's not what people are looking for. It's kind of like confirmation that, okay, I'm doing this and I have been doing okay. And giving them that support. And again, like I said, the empathy to sit, listen. And sometimes that's all they need is to release a little bit and then recommend. Now, here's a boundary. Here's how you can.
It's really great advice, not only for caregivers, but as we were saying before, if you're a friend or family member of a caregiver, is helping people get there.
Yeah. And we see this a lot with like sibling groups. So say like the example of like mom, and then there's like siblings. One sibling is often the like kind of high impact provider. Maybe they're close in proximity or the relationship is super close. And so then the other siblings are sort of like, Monday morning quarterbacking or couch coaching or whatever. And so like helping.
We see that a lot.
Yeah, we do see that a lot. And sometimes that's our role, is to say like, so how are your siblings helping you?
Yes.
Like, why don't we invite them in to talk about how they might help you, rather than undermine what's happening. Like, so when we talk about boundaries, it's like inviting assistance. And sometimes it takes, sharing with someone how they might invite assistance. Like sometimes people just really don't know what to do, or they like make assumptions like, oh, you want to do this, or you're better at this, instead of being like, oh, well, how can I, what can I do?
And conversation starters, right? We can help the caregiver find the right ways to start the conversation.
Right.
Just tips.
Right.
On,
Since we've seen a lot of it.
Yeah, here's a tip on how to ask your sister to come in more often, or tell her what you need in a nice way.
Right. Yeah. And I think we've done quite a bit of that.
And sometimes I think, and Erica, you can dive into it, but sometimes it's not just leaning on your family, but really leaning on community. Because sometimes I think most families
Family
oftentimes
dynamics.
come with dynamics.
Yeah.
So sometimes you might need to lean on community.
Yeah. So can you share experiences you've witnessed with families with either support groups or sort of communal support?
Oh my goodness. One of my favorite things to watch is someone that comes in looking for help. We give them the information on our support group. They get up the nerve to join, and then they're there every single time we offer it. And not only do they get something from it, but they recommend it to others in our community, maybe other family members they have created relationships with or whatnot. But watching that blossoming of confidence in, okay, yeah, I got this. I can do this. And watching people go through literally years that they may not even feel like they really need that support anymore, but they've grown to just trust it and foster that.
And then they're like the mentors.
Oh yeah.
And so cool.
Sometimes, even when their loved one has passed, they say, I miss this, because it's that community. It's that I'm not alone.
Right.
Sharing resources.
Yes.
And these are offered in person
or online.
Online. Yep. So there's like lots of ways to engage. I think a lot of people are like nervous because of the word support group.
Yes.
It's like so vulnerable.
Yes. Like I have to open up. I have to bare my soul.
Yes.
And a tip we tell people is you may not share the first time. Just sit, listen, see what it's all about. You're not forced to speak. You're not forced to share. And then when they're comfortable, they start to open up.
I think you kind of start to see people that you can relate to.
Yeah.
You're always going to see people and be like, oh, we're not there yet. And it's like scary a little bit, right? Like, but getting the help doesn't mean things are going to get bad, or like everybody's story is different and everybody's
journey is different.
Experience of whatever disease it is different.
What's interesting in the support groups, though, is when someone hears something for the first time that someone's sharing in a group and they thought they were the only ones that were dealing with it, that aha moment of, oh my gosh, this is happening to someone else. And that's when it starts to work.
Yeah,
that's when it really starts to work for them.
That's the collaboration. This is how we got through this.
Right.
And it's sharing the ideas and not recreating the wheel.
Yeah.
And again, sharing the resources as to what helped. And as you said earlier, Erica, folks might not be at a certain place or stage that other caregivers are, but it's education, what to look for
the
signs
future,
and symptoms, and how we can approach it to have the, better outcomes.
Right. Yeah. It's so interesting. You almost can like witness the like physical relief or release, like when that happens, or when you as a provider, like they come in and they say, my mom's doing this, and you're like, I've seen that, and they're like, oh, like they were almost embarrassed to talk about it. It's like, no, like this is a thing and it's okay. And I think that's like one of the richest parts about coming to someone like you, is like you've seen a lot, and so you can like reassure them that like, hey, this is part of it, and you're doing well, and keep at it, and we're going to be there to support you. So I'd love to hear if there's any, I know Bridges offers like support groups. What are some other resources? Like, would someone just come in and like talk to someone? Like, would they call? And what are some other resources that are out there that you know of?
So they absolutely can call Bridges,
Okay.
Even if they're not looking for the immediate placement of someone in a community. We never let them go, and we hold on to them to really give them just that guidance that they need.
It's all free education,
It's all
support
free
group. Yeah.
education, support. We even will say, hey, bring your loved one into an activity if that's appropriate, while you can sit in the support
learn.
group.
Yeah, so great.
We're just looking to help. We're looking as a community to say, if for me, it's like memory care, right?
Yeah.
That we're focused on. But you're not alone. Even if you're not looking right now for a place, that we're here to guide you. We're here to be your community, your support. As you said, free of charge. Other places, we might be able to help them navigate out in the community. If it is memory care, the Alzheimer's Association is a great resource. So kind of pointing them in the direction of where they can get more information as well.
Awesome.
It's my favorite part about EPIC is truly being a resource to these families no matter what. And you're really great at it, Amy. And I would just love for folks before we sign off, if you could you're wonderful at helping families. And how did you fall into this? What led you into being the passionate caregiver guider that you are?
Well, I actually started in sales for senior living, and it was a friend of a friend that worked for a company. I was listening to it. We were just talking casually about, what do you do for a living? What do you do for a living? At that time, I was in real estate title, which very different industry. And I always had just a feeling that I want to go to work every day, but feel like I'm making a difference. And listening to this woman that worked in senior living, I thought, wow, that sounds so exciting, but I probably could never do that. I don't have experience. I don't. And what she told me is, you just need the passion in a heart.
It's true.
And people will talk to you. They'll interview you, and the rest is history. No regrets. It's the truth. If you have that passion, I encourage anyone, get out there and see what opportunities are out there to help others.
Well, you have the passion and the heart. Amy Murray, Executive Director of Bridges by EPIC in Andover, Massachusetts. Thank you for joining EPIC Exchange.
Yes,
Thank
where
you,
we are
ladies.
people caring for people. So thank you, Amy.
Thank you
so
much.
much.
Pleasure.
Until the next time, thank you for joining us on the EPIC Exchange.
Thanks, folks.